If you were born between 1957 and 1977, you felt it your entire life, haven't you? That sense of not quite fitting, of seeing through systems others accept, of knowing there's something fundamentally wrong with normal, of carrying a mission you can't quite name but can't escape. You're not crazy. You're not broken. You're not failing at life. You were spiritually chosen for a task so specific, so necessary, so revolutionary that Edgar Cayce saw you coming and wept at the burden you would carry. You are the generation of the Great Awakening, not the ones who started it. That was your parents. Not the ones who will complete it. That's your children. You're the ones who must hold the door open while humanity passes through the most dangerous transition in its history. Born into the shadow of potential nuclear annihilation, raised in the breakdown of every institution, coming of age as technology exploded beyond wisdom. You're the generation that had to become spiritually bulletproof because you would be shot at from all directions. Old paradigm, new paradigm, and the chaos in between. Cayce called you the translators. The ones who would have to speak every language, material and spiritual, ancient and modern, human and cosmic. The ones who would have to hold paradox without breaking, navigate between worlds without losing themselves, transform reality without anyone noticing. You're doing it. You're not the spotlight generation. You're the silent workers of consciousness evolution, setting up the stage, managing the transitions, making sure the show goes on while getting none of the credit. And that invisibility, that's not neglect. That's your power. Because the most profound transformations happen in shadow. And you, the 1957 to 1977 generation, are the shadow workers of the Great Shift. The Indigo Wave. Edgar Cayce didn't use the term indigo children. That came later, but he described exactly what would arrive between 1957 and 1977. Souls with heightened awareness from birth. Natural intuitives who would hide their gifts. System seers who could spot lies instantly. They will come with their inner sight already open, Cayce revealed, but the world will try to close it. These souls will suffer greatly as children, not from abuse, but from the pain of seeing truth in a world built on illusion. You knew things were false before anyone explained them. You sensed inconsistencies behind smiles. You felt the system was broken before you could even explain why. You didn't learn disillusionment. You were born disillusioned, which is actually illumination. This is why childhood was so heavy for your generation. You were psychologically mature in environments that demanded conformity. Wisdom holders forced to sit through lessons that never matched your perception of reality. How many of you were labeled difficult, oversensitive, too intense? How many were misunderstood for seeing what others couldn't, feeling what others avoided, knowing what others denied? You weren't broken children. You were aware souls in an unaware world, and the dissonance nearly overwhelmed many of you. But it didn't end you, because destruction was never your role. Transformation was. The starseed activation. Here is something that resonates deeply with many of you. Cayce suggested that the 1957 to 1977 generation contains a high percentage of what he described as off-world consciousness, awareness that carries memory beyond a single lifetime, beyond a single identity. They are cosmic citizens incarnating as humans, he explained. They carry expanded perspective, multi-layered awareness, and a sense of distance from ordinary human behavior. Earth often feels unfamiliar to them because their perception has always been wider than their environment. This is why you've always felt different. Why human behavior sometimes confuses you. Why you look at the sky with a strange sense of recognition rather than curiosity. Why the idea of life beyond Earth feels intuitive rather than theoretical. You didn't come here to simply fit into the world. You came here to help the world evolve beyond its current limitations. You're not just bridging generations. You're bridging levels of awareness. The physical sensitivities many of you have experienced, environmental reactions, chronic fatigue, autoimmune struggles, are often interpreted as weakness. But from a deeper perspective, they can reflect a system trying to adapt to intense psychological and environmental pressure. You are highly responsive to imbalance, and that responsiveness is part of your design. The karma breakers. If there is one defining trait of the 1957 to 1977 generation, it is this: you break cycles. Not just your own, but those of your families and environments. Cayce revealed that many of you would take on heavy karmic patterns, ancestral trauma, and collective emotional burdens, not as punishment, but as alchemists. You transmute patterns others cannot even confront. This is why your life may have felt disproportionately difficult, why you faced challenges that seemed larger than your circumstances, why you had to heal things that were never originally yours. How many of you are the black sheep in your family? The one who ended the addiction cycle, the one who refused to continue generational patterns, the one who questioned everything that was always accepted. That wasn't rebellion. That was psychological evolution. You came to break chains that had existed for decades, sometimes centuries. But breaking cycles is painful. It feels like internal restructuring. The depression, anxiety, isolation many of you endured are not signs of failure. They are signs of deep internal processing. And the fact that you are still here, still aware, still functioning, is evidence of immense resilience. The bridge consciousness. You are not just a bridge generation. You are the bridge itself. Cayce revealed that your consciousness structure is dual in nature, able to hold multiple realities at once. Where others see either or, you see both. Where others choose sides, you recognize complexity. This is why you often struggle to fully align with one ideology, one system, or one identity. You are not indecisive. You are multi-layered. You can be spiritual and logical, intuitive and analytical, ancient in perception, yet modern in function. You don't fit into boxes because your role is to exist between them. This bridge awareness is exhausting. It feels like living between worlds, never fully belonging to one side or the other. But this tension is not breaking you. It is creating the psychological span humanity needs to transition between old and new paradigms. Your consciousness is holding space for transformation itself, the silent revolution. Your generation does not always protest loudly or seek visibility. Your transformation work is internal, subtle, and deeply psychological. Cayce explained that your influence operates through consciousness rather than spectacle. No banners, no slogans, just a frequency of awareness that gradually dissolves outdated patterns. Your presence shifts environments. Your insight alters conversations. Your healing changes emotional fields around you. This is why you often feel like you are not doing enough in a world that measures value through visible action. But your work operates at a deeper level. Every personal healing you complete reduces collective emotional burden. Every moment of awareness you maintain creates stability in chaotic systems. You are not passive. You are operating in dimensions of influence most people never consciously notice. The walk-in phenomenon. Cayce described an unusual pattern within your generation, periods of profound internal transformation where identity, purpose, and personality shift dramatically. Many of you have experienced phases where you felt like an entirely different person compared to earlier versions of yourself. This is not instability. It is deep psychological evolution, a continuous renewal process where old identities dissolve and more aligned awareness takes their place. This explains why many of you feel like you have lived multiple lives within one lifetime. Different careers, different perspectives, different emotional depths across decades. You are not inconsistent. You are adaptive to mission and growth. The memory keepers. Your generation carries memories others have forgotten. Not just personal memories, but emotional and collective patterns. Cayce predicted that you would remember what humanity tends to ignore: lost wisdom, repeated mistakes, and deep historical cycles. This is why certain world events affect you more intensely than they seem to affect others. Why some global patterns trigger a deep emotional response you cannot easily explain. You are not overreacting. You are recognizing repeating psychological cycles. The healers of the healers. Many of your generation naturally became advisors, mentors, therapists, or quiet guides, even without formal titles. Cayce revealed your deeper purpose: to support those who support others. You understand emotional wounds at a depth that traditional systems often fail to address. You have had to heal experiences that had no clear labels, no clear solutions, and no existing frameworks. This forced you to develop internal methods of resilience, awareness, and emotional integration. The timeline awareness. Your generation often feels as if life is happening on multiple layers simultaneously. You sense patterns before they fully unfold. You recognize outcomes before they become obvious. This is not superstition. It is pattern recognition shaped by decades of observation, emotional memory, and psychological awareness. Your decisions are rarely impulsive. They are influenced by a deep internal processing system that evaluates possibilities beyond surface-level logic. The frequency holders. Now, as many of you are in your 40s, 50s, and 60s, you are entering what Cayce described as the stabilization phase. Your role shifts from constant struggle to conscious presence. Not to do more, but to be more aware. You become stabilizing forces in environments filled with uncertainty. Your calm, your perspective, and your emotional depth act like anchors for others navigating confusion. This role is demanding. It feels like being a lighthouse during a storm. You must maintain clarity even when chaos surrounds you. But every person who finds direction through your presence makes that effort meaningful. The invisible architects. Your generation is shaping the future in ways that are rarely visible. You may not always be the public leaders or the celebrated figures, but you are often the ones influencing ideas, guiding perspectives, and stabilizing systems behind the scenes. Cayce predicted that you would work from subtle influence rather than visible authority, not for recognition, but for impact. The great testing. Your life has likely included more challenges than expected. Family instability, systemic changes, economic shifts, health struggles, emotional trials, and prolonged periods of inner questioning. These were not random punishments. They were refinement processes. Each challenge strengthened your psychological endurance. Each hardship expanded your awareness. You were tested not to be broken, but to become resilient enough to hold space during humanity's most unstable transitions. The activation codes. Cayce suggested that your generation carries psychological activation potential. Your presence alone can trigger reflection, awareness, and change in others. Conversations with you often lead to realizations in people. Encounters with you influence decisions, healing, and growth. You are not forcing change. You are naturally activating it through awareness and depth of perception. The final mission. As your generation continues moving forward in life, your true role becomes clearer. You are here to hold stability while humanity evolves, not to force change, but to maintain the psychological and emotional space in which change can safely occur. To anchor awareness during uncertainty, to process shadow and transform it into understanding, to help others navigate transitions between outdated beliefs and emerging perspectives. The recognition. The world may not fully see or acknowledge your role, but your impact exists in every cycle you ended, every person you helped stabilize, every pattern you transformed. You are the quiet contributors to collective psychological evolution. You did not come for attention. You came for effect. You did not come to be seen. You came to help others see more clearly. Your time is now. After decades of preparation, testing, and inner refinement, your generation is entering its most influential phase. Not influence through control, but through presence, wisdom, and psychological depth. You are no longer searching for purpose. You are living it. You are no longer defined by your wounds. You are using them as insight for others. The 1957 to 1977 generation, chosen not for ease but for capacity, selected not for comfort but for strength, activated not for personal gain but for collective evolution. If you recognize yourself in this description, reflect on your journey as a bridge, a translator, a stabilizing presence. Connect with the deeper patterns of your life that once felt confusing but now appear meaningful. Subscribe to Beyond the Twist, like the video, and share it with someone who needs this perspective. You were chosen for this time, this responsibility, this silent but essential role in humanity's evolution. Not because you are meant to stand above others, but because you are strong enough to hold the bridge across which transformation must pass. The bridge is built. You are the bridge. And humanity is crossing, whether it realizes it or not, supported by your steady, resilient, and irreplaceable presence.